come once again to discuss things.
And on that note, hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Geeky Gentlemen.
Today.
I am Sid Part 2, joining me today is Milan Jeftic 1992 and Steve Baxey.
Sup, motherfuckers?
It seemed like a good opportunity to start and throw everyone off guard, Steve. I like doing that.
Evidently.
Yeah.
QED, motherfucker.
What does it mean, anyway?
It's Latin for something. It basically means, thus it is proven. It's like a mic drop for proving your logic.
Oh, so it's like a philosopher version of... Yeah, that's kind of hot.
Yeah. Anyway... Steve, what are we talking about today?
Okay, today we are talking about a biopic, which is weird because last week was art versus history, and now this is like an amalgam of the two. But we are discussing The Iron Lady, the Meryl Streep movie from, 2011?
Yep.
Where she stars as Margaret Thatcher, the first female Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
Well, the only female.
Well, the only, yeah. Well, I don't
now.
know. Like, someone could be watching this video 40 years from now, and there's like...
Oh, yes. 40 years from now, the world will look back and think, why weren't we watching the Geeky Gentlemen then?
Exactly.
Yeah, and somebody fucking from 50 years from now goes like, oh my god, these guys are so wrong. Like, lol, you guys are such morons, lol. I'm like, sweetheart, it's like 50 years later. We've mutated into giant floating brains by now, so don't comment on old YouTube videos.
No, YouTube won't exist by that point. The comment system will have changed 600 more times. You'll have to like scan your eye to leave a comment, and even then, it can't be more than 2 words or something.
2 words.
Every word.
Yeah, 2-word comment.
Syllable.
Yeah, there won't be thumbs up and thumbs down. Just a general, very vague kind of enjoyed this video, but not really.
So it's
button.
Like super plus good.
No, it'd be more like this was, a thing. That'll be the button, and you will hit it whether you like the video or not.
You know what would have? It'll be just
this
like
is the future of YouTube.
Anyway. Yep.
I don't know. I think like we're not gonna do theme months every month, but I think I kind of want, just because we're leading up to Thanksgiving, I kind of want to stay on history-esque topics.
That's exactly what I was thinking today.
Because I already know what I'm going to pick for my review when I get a chance here coming up. Milan, I want you to... You've got the next topic discussion for next week. Think of something history-related. Because this will be fun.
It will be.
Anyway, so Iron Lady, though. First of all, I'm going to steal Steve's joke. I was very disappointed there were no repulsor rays.
I was about to say that, too. There was false advertising all over this movie. She never put on the armor. She was never kidnapped by terrorists. Robert Downey Jr. was nowhere to be found.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous because when there wasn't even a racist Asian stereotype with magical rings or anything.
Right?
I know. There was a weird... Yeah, there was, like, a lot of angry British folks. And
I stayed until after the credits. There was no Nick Fury. Come on.
Not at all. There wasn't any black people in this... There weren't any black people of note in this
Dude, you just
film.
made me think about Margaret Thatcher as a member of the Avengers.
She'd be more effective than half of them.
Well, she'd be like the Batman of the team because she just wouldn't budge on anything, and no one would really like her, but everyone would be like, oh, she's awesome.
Imagine that scene in Avengers where Loki tries to get Tony to switch sides and it's just Margaret Thatcher.
Just like...
She needs no special technology. She just doesn't budge.
We have an army. I am Margaret Thatcher.
Exactly.
Loki touches her heart with the thing, and she's like, "That shriveled up and died years ago." Like,
I have no heart.
Loki around and says, "Puny God."
Yeah.
okay. Anyway, this got really silly really fast. I wasn't
Well, it is
expecting
Margaret Thatcher. What do you expect?
And the movie is a little bit silly in places.
Oh, it's ridiculous. The movie's fucking silly as fuck.
I don't know. I have this weird thing with biopics. I tend to enjoy them more when they're of people I don't like, and are done in such a way to neither demonize nor make them look heroic. Like, I have a very similar opinion to this movie as I do to W, the Oliver Stone picture about George W. Bush.
I still have not seen that.
Me neither.
It's really interesting, and I mean, you hear Oliver Stone and George W. Bush, and you think it's going to be just like this fucking, rape of George W. Bush. And at times, it's really, really negative toward him. But it's at the times that he deserves it. But the overall stance that movie takes on George W. Bush is that he's a guy that was just out to try to prove himself to his father, and then lost sight of what he was doing along the way because it all got too big. And that's a very fair way to look at George W. Bush's presidency. There are people that would say much more negative things about it, sure, and you can say those things, but that's, I think, the fairest way that you could even see George W. Bush.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, at the time, because the movie is only from, 2008, 2009, right after his presidency, so there's really not much.
It came out during his presidency.
Yeah, exactly. So there's only so much you could say.
Yeah, yeah, but you know what? Like, everyone talks so much shit about George Bush, but I'm like, he's special. Don't be ableist. You know?
Oliver Stone also did a Nixon movie, which is really good, so...
Yeah, but I think the very same way about W as I do about this movie. I don't like Margaret Thatcher. For one, I'm half Irish.
And you're Mexican,
Forgot
so
about that.
so you're like twice the minority.
Well, no, I mean, Margaret Thatcher and Irish people is... I've seen pictures of Margaret Thatcher, or graffiti rather, of Margaret Thatcher shaking hands with Hitler in Irish neighborhoods.
Well, also, if you're part of any London-based legislature, then you hate Margaret Thatcher as well.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, no, it's just like, so I think this movie does a very good job of portraying like the kind of person she was politically, and contrasting that with the kind of things that she believed in, and you got to see the reasons why she did these things. And if my dad were the advisor to the Khaleesi, I'd probably end up similarly. Game of Thrones reference for everyone out there.
I've not seen that show.
The actor that plays Margaret Thatcher's father is like a recurring character in Game of Thrones.
Oh, okay.
You know what I found weird about this film? They tried to humanize her, and they did kind of show, like, oh, look at the people, they don't like her, but they never, explained properly why. I'm sure everybody knows who Margaret Thatcher is. Well, not everybody, but essentially it kind of felt like, oh, why are these angry poor people yelling at Grandma?
There was that line, and I don't know if I'm the only one that heard it because there's a lot of shouting at the time, but in one of those scenes where all the people are like crowding her car when she's Prime Minister, you hear one guy go, "You're a mother, how could you do this to people if you're a mother?"
Yeah, I heard that line as well.
That one really resonated with me. I don't think you needed to see everything that everyone was going through. You just kind of got to experience it by the way she was dealing with it.
One of my problems in that regard is we see her give a lot of really grand speeches about the ideals of her policymaking, but we don't actually see her implement those policies or face the practical ramifications of them. We just kind of see, here's the platitude, here's the reaction.
Here's the newsreel footage.
Yeah, but there's nothing in between there to make those connect. And I'm not sure if it's really a problem, because she's kind of an unreliable narrator as far as the movie's concerned, but it does kind of stand out because she did a lot of weird things to get her idealism transferred into the practical sense, like that joke I made earlier about one of her policy decisions didn't fly with Londoners, so she just disbanded the entire London legislature to get her way through. And we don't see stuff like that. And I feel like that probably was needed at least once.
I think the problem that I have, and it kind of goes hand in hand with that, Steve, is you don't have... this movie's more about her political career on the whole.
Yeah.
And so you don't get enough time with her just as Prime Minister. Like, that's only maybe a third of the movie.
I mean, they give her a funny ghost sidekick ex-dead husband thing. I mean, what the fuck?
Well, you gotta remember, Margaret Thatcher died due to complications with Alzheimer's.
Yeah, I thought they played that up really well. I think Meryl Streep is fantastic as Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah, there's that. I don't know, it's just one of those weird things, like, one of those weird historical coincidences that both Reagan and Thatcher had Alzheimer's and started to show signs while they were still in office.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
So it's like...
I've always found that so weird.
Yeah, because those two are just like, they were made for each other. I'm sure there's some Republican fan fiction out there.
Margaret Thatcher is Ronald Reagan with a vagina, and Ronald Reagan is Margaret Thatcher with a penis.
Pretty much.
Dude,
you can't talk about Thatcher without talking about comparisons to Reagan and vice versa.
Oh, definitely. Dude, I have read some fan fiction with those two. I mean, Jesus God, Republicans are dirty.
One of my favorite lines in Bad Santa, he looks at this vault that's apparently uncrackable, and he talks about this guy he did time with who was also a safe cracker. And he goes, Jimmy Smits, they say you could get into anything. They say you got into Margaret Thatcher's pussy. That's a good thing? Anyway.
Bad Santa.
No, it's one of those weird things that Margaret Thatcher ended up getting Alzheimer's. There was a guy doing a book interview on Fresh Air one day, and he was talking about how he sent his nanny to go take his kids to the park, and you can kind of see this in the very last shot of the movie. You hear the kids playing in the background as she's at the sink. She lived really close to a park, like a public park, and as her mind began to fade, she just liked to go out and play with the kids in the park. And that's just such a strange contrast, this woman that everybody hated in the 80s. When you think about it, like, there were death threats and, successful bombing attempts.
Yeah.
Successful bombing attempts doesn't make any sense. Bombing attempts that were nearly successful. It's crazy when you think about how just a stark contrast they did, and that's the thing I guess I like the most about this movie, is you can't hate her by the end of it, because in a certain respect, no matter what stance you take, she's kind of gotten what she deserved.
Her brain has turned into a cottage cheese, essentially.
And not just that, but like, she got to implement the changes she wanted, and you get the sense that a price for that was the hatred and everything, and everyone wishing something like this upon her. And she knew that and continued on anyway.
Yeah, and part of this movie, there's definitely that theme of, like, what power does to you. And we see that grow as she's a really young woman that doesn't get the respect that she deserves, or the respect that she wishes she deserved. And then eventually she gets to that place and realizes that she's not best fit for it, or at least not best fit for it in the eyes of the public. And like you said, eventually she gets what the people think is coming to her. And it's interesting, because by the end of it, you feel sympathy for her, but it's really hard to like her, because she's not that good of a person, and she admits that she's not a good person, and it paints her in a very unbiased light, despite the fact that we're kind of seeing through her eyes, and we're seeing, like, her memories and the performance she gives about how the sickness is kind of treating her and the stuff with her dead husband. All of that unchanged, it's still hard to like her as a person. I think that's ultimately why the film is successful.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, it doesn't change my opinion on Margaret Thatcher at all.
No, not at all.
But it just makes me think about her in a different way. Like, the thing that this film does the best is it shows how a young girl completely took what her father was saying as political rhetoric to an extreme and changed the whole world with it. That's I think what I see in this movie, is that we have a girl that was inspired by her father, that looked up to her father, and just ran with it.
Yeah.
And in some cases ran right into a bus, but, political differences aside, and I guess I should have put this at the beginning of the video, but, if you like Margaret Thatcher, if you're a right-wing person, that's fine. I hope you can continue to watch this video, but you gotta realize that the changes she implemented, while they arguably benefited the society as a whole, to the minority populations and to the working class, it was awful.
Yeah.
Like, you see all the footage of riots in the streets, and that is real news footage, people.
But Ian, like, all those poor people were just complainers. They didn't work. They just wanted a handout. How dare you have sympathy? How dare you have sympathy for the progs?
And this is something I wish that the film did get into a little bit more as well. But pretty much the UK from 1945 up until Margaret Thatcher took over, it was a welfare state. It was virtually no unemployment. Everyone was working through nationalized institutions. And everyone had a job even if the economy wasn't great. And then when we had that global decline and Margaret Thatcher came to power, it's like the Reagan thing. It works very minimally, but they don't realize the shortcomings of that policy in the long term.
Well, I wanted to read up more on Margaret Thatcher history, and I didn't have too much time. I got to watch a documentary while I was at work. And one of the things I found interesting is she implemented a policy that I can actually stand behind, which is, we have people in public housing that feel like they don't have any stake in the housing market, so you know what? We'll give them the option to buy the house.
Yeah.
And that's brilliant. That's great fucking economic strategy. But guess what the problem was? She let people buy the houses, they didn't build any more public housing, so more people ended up homeless. See the problem there?
Yeah. It's interesting because I don't want to get too political in the sense of just criticizing her administration or anything like that. I kind of want to keep it closer to the film representation of it, but it's really hard to do that because it does so much accurately, and there are some inconsistencies here and there, but a lot of that I can just shove away because it's made from an unreliable narrator, and so we're getting events as she felt them and not necessarily as they were.
Can you give me one or two examples of the inconsistencies, since you're probably better versed in this than I am?
Well, yeah, one of the major things is that there's literally no females in all of Parliament when she's there, and that's not true at all. There was at least 20 to 40 female ministers there. One of the people that was a critic of her about her decision to attack the Falkland Islands and stuff was actually, in the actual story, was a supporter of hers, and Thatcher really appreciated his confidence. So they get some of that stuff wrong, but again, it's more about the feeling, right? She felt isolated, so we don't see the other female ministers because they didn't play into her psychology as much.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So yeah, I don't see those as problems necessarily. This has less biopic issues than other things do, like Chaplin, for example, where they just skip broad strokes of time and you have no idea what's going on.
Man, Chaplin.
I do like that movie.
Robert Downey Jr.
I do really like that movie. It's just a matter of, as a biopic, it's confusing as all hell.
Yeah, no disagreement. Man, I don't know, Margaret Thatcher is just one of those people I find it so hard to talk about without just blatantly describing everything she did wrong.
Yeah, that's the thing about it. And the film acknowledges she did a lot wrong, they didn't paint her as this great woman. They paint her as a role model for women because she was strong, but ultimately her policies don't work.
Yep.
And I feel like there's no other way to talk about it than that.
Yeah, so essentially, you girls, you can do anything, but don't do it because you'll end up like Margaret Thatcher.
Well, at least you can do anything, and thus proven by Margaret Thatcher, just don't do what she did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do what you want to.
I think.
Yeah. Do what you can, but don't try to destroy the world
or the country.
Good advice. I don't know. I think one of the things that this movie showed is not so much that her policies themselves were problematic; it's the fact that she just would not listen to anyone else ever. And, they keep warning her, there's that scene where she's getting the button put on and she lectures everybody. and then they all leave except for the guy that she eventually that eventually hands in his resignation because she corrected his grammar. Like, he tells her, don't push the faith of those close to you, or something like that, or don't push the limits of those close to you. And she doesn't want to fucking listen to him. And I think the problem with it, and the Falkland Islands scene in particular demonstrates this, is every time she'd get close to something biting her in the ass, it would end up working itself out, and she would take that as, or she would interpret that as because she wouldn't budge from her ground is why this worked. Not because some crazy other thing happened that made it work.
Yeah, and that's exactly the issue that we had with Reagan and Thatcher, of the world was just in a very specific place. Like, the potential setup of the world was working toward a certain goal, and these guys just came in at the right times. Reagan's called the Teflon president. I think you could probably make a case for Thatcher being that to some extent. Not because she never got any flack, but because what she did worked only because she got lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think of Thatcher and Reagan in the same way that I think of I'm trying to think of like a good classic historical example. Because like some people would go as far as to say Caligula and stuff. I'm like, no, come on.
That's a little extreme.
It was never that bad. But like, I'm trying to think of a good Roman or kind of in the way that I suppose the emperors of Alexander's empire after his passing.
I can see that.
Because like they did a pretty good job, but like no one else could have possibly held that all together.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like Reagan and Thatcher did okay, but they just misinterpreted what they were doing. And then they kept feeling like, well, this is working, so I'm going to keep going. They just didn't learn when to quit or when to, like, back off.
Yeah.
Funny thing you should say, funny thing, have you guys read Deadly Class? It's a Image Comics book. And essentially it's set during the Reagan era. And it's about a school of assassins, and essentially the main character wants to kill Reagan because he
is it the Remender book?
Yeah, it is. It's really good.
Did they all read Catcher in the Rye?
It stinks.
Or watch Taxi Driver?
Yeah. Essentially, it feels like an 80s movie, and it's amazing.
That's cool.
That's a really cool series. That first volume of it is actually called Reagan Youth, and it's all about the kids growing up in that era.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Reagan's kids.
One
thing I guess I was disappointed in this movie about was Reagan's in it for one scene.
And it's just archive footage? It's not even someone cast as Reagan?
No, I thought they were in one scene where they, like, dance.
Yeah, it's archive.
Oh, I could have sworn that was actually Meryl Streep. Credit to the makeup department.
Well, I mean, at least as far as IMDb is concerned, it says Reagan was in the movie as only archive footage, so...
Okay. No, I was disappointed that he wasn't a bigger part in this movie. Like I said, I wish this movie was more, as opposed to being about her entire political career, and I see why they did it that way, but I really wish this movie had just been about her as the Prime Minister and after, and, you know, like, I liked all the Alzheimer's stuff. That's the best part of the movie to me. But I like the Prime Minister stuff so much more than her as a little girl and her early years in Parliament. Like, the actress that they cast for younger Margaret Thatcher is just kind of, nah, sorry.
I don't see her growing into Meryl Streep, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm sure she's probably a good actress on her own, but when you've got to become Meryl Streep, no, I'm sorry. You can't do it.
Meryl Streep is a bad bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's fantastic in this movie.
No argument for me. I remember hearing a review of this movie at this guy was doing like a top 10 list of movies, and he goes, and I hate to jump on the Meryl Streep bandwagon, but god damn. She does the badass stuff perfectly fine of Margaret Thatcher being the Iron Lady, but God, when she has those scenes, quote unquote, alone with her husband, oh my God, it's so painful to watch.
The movie is pretty 50-50 as far as reviews are concerned. A lot of people like it, a lot of people hate it. But there's just universal praise for her in the role. I don't think you will ever find a person who's seen this movie and says that she's bad as Margaret Thatcher. And if they say that, they're probably wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She just sells it like, oh my God, she could... I don't even know what to say. She's just amazing at it.
No, she got her third Oscar for it. I mean, she's good. She's fantastic in the movie.
I also liked the guy that played her husband, / hallucination. He was pretty good. See, it's funny because I didn't really like the girl that played young Margaret Thatcher, but I really liked the guy that played young Dennis Thatcher.
Dennis Thatcher. The young guy was Harry Lloyd, and he's on Game of Thrones as well. I just don't know who he plays.
Oh, I don't even know, because better makeup, I guess.
The older gentleman that plays Thatcher's husband was in Superman 4, so...
Oh, yeah, really?
Yeah, so he's kind of forgettable in other roles, but I do like him as the husband as well, yeah.
That fucking hat thing. I have just a feeling that the director really liked that picture of her husband wearing that hat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder how much of the Alzheimer's stuff came from just reports, or interviews with the staff of the house, because, I don't know, some of this just seems way too perfect to be made up, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting, because there was a lot of people in Thatcher's family that got to see this film early, and they complained about the fact that they were portraying the Alzheimer's stuff incorrectly, or that it was overdramatic, or something like that. And a lot of people saying that she was nowhere near as far gone as the movie says that she was. But I don't know, because it works, and if you've seen her in her later years, and you saw her on camera and stuff, you buy it. There's a really good scene where she's talking to the hallucination of her husband and she's picking out his suit and she makes this weird face when someone else asks her a question. So she's acknowledging that the husband's hallucination, but she doesn't want to lead on to the person in the room. And that's almost exactly something that she did while out in a press conference or something. She was doing something for the House of Lords, and it's the exact same kind of reaction. So, I don't know. I'm not sure if the family is just overly sensitive, or if Meryl Streep is just that good of an actress.
I don't know, I just think that, some of the stuff with just the way she reacts to him and everything, just the way she talks to him about everything, and I don't know, I just think, the one in particular when she starts turning on everything in the house just to try to drown out the voice of her husband.
Yeah.
That seems like it would come right out of an interview with one of the maids.
Yeah. The thing at the end when
that just feels real.
Hold on. Isn't Alzheimer's just you start forgetting things, not hallucinations?
No, your brain just falls apart and just the chemical reactions start going crazy, and you can just anything can happen really.
Pretty much.
I've heard about people with Alzheimer's that, will just see things like a deer walk through the living room. I remember listening to a guy tell a story about his dad who had Alzheimer's, and he was visiting him in a home, and he goes, oh, there goes the deer. So everything just falls apart. It is just rapid deterioration of the brain.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. It does a pretty good job of making all of that tragic and still reeling it in far enough so you get a good sense of who Margaret Thatcher was outside of the illness.
That and just the way Streep plays it, it's so hard to tell when she's giving speeches as an old lady, in the doctor's office. It's hard to tell whether or not that's the old Thatcher or just the crazy person coming out.
Yeah, when she's correcting that guy's grammar, I can't tell if she really was just that authoritarian and crazy, or if she's starting to show early signs of the disease, and no one can understand what she's doing.
Well, no, I think she was attempting to be incredibly offensive at that moment to try to clear the room, because she could tell, because she broke the pencil and stuff, and she could tell something was wrong with her.
Yeah.
So I think she was trying to clear the room, and I think that scene was supposed to be her first signs.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't think the grammar thing itself was the Alzheimer's. I think that was her attempting to get everyone out of the room.
Yeah, okay. That does speak for the editing, though, because there's a lot of, jumps from young Thatcher to old Thatcher to in the middle, and it flows really well. And we see the actress fade in and out of her makeup from young to old really quickly. And you would think that would make the film a little uneven, but no, it works surprisingly well.
Yeah, I agree. This is such a well-edited and well-done movie. My problems with it are really that they focus on the wrong parts. And I guess you need some of the stuff with the young Thatcher, but you don't need her initial run for Parliament. You don't need that. You don't really need, in my opinion, the stuff with her husband. I don't know, just at least a third or maybe even 2/3 of the stuff with young Thatcher could be taken right out.
Yeah, I can see that. I really want to see a compliment to this movie made with Reagan.
Oh god.
Just set in the same fictional biopic universe. And this version of Thatcher dealt with this other version of Reagan, and we get to see the sensibilities approached from that perspective.
No. You know what we should do? We should have that movie made, but set in the Dark Knight Returns universe. So exactly that, but just have him talking to Superman halfway through saying, "Go get him." And then we just don't see the Superman and Batman fight.
Well, I think it would be really artsy and it wouldn't play well, but I think you could make a serious Reagan biopic and have his Alzheimer's hallucination be something like Superman, because that's what he thought he was.
Or a cowboy.
A cowboy works too. A Superman cowboy.
A Superman as a cowboy riding a space horse.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he thought he was. Yeah, Han Solo. He's Han Solo.
Honestly, you hear Reagan make all the evil empire references to the Soviet Union and stuff, you were like, this guy really wanted a part in Star Wars, so he just became president instead.
I'll say right now, I don't think Ronald Reagan was a very good actor, but he wasn't. He wasn't that great.
He was a B-movie actor.
He thought he was John Wayne was the problem. I'm not kidding, man. He walks on stage and stuff and acts like he's John Wayne, but he's not.
Well, here's the thing. Reagan's, have you ever seen, Reagan's, big campaign ad with "I'm proud to be an American" playing in the background and everything?
Yes.
For his re-election campaign? Yeah, see, you say what you will about Reagan. That man was the greatest politician when it came to getting elected ever.
Yeah,
amazing marketing campaign.
The dude, this is what I have to say. Some people shouldn't be presidents. W. Bush seems like a nice guy, a rich, spoiled, rich kid that ain't too smart. But hey, he's fun to have a drink with. Shouldn't be president. Reagan, nice guy, tells a good Soviet joke, but shouldn't be president. You have to be competent.
There are so many Republicans on your channel that have just unsubscribed to us.
I don't have any Republicans. Come on, Republicans can take a joke.
No, they can't.
Yes, they can. What do you think? They're a bunch of spineless liberals, eh? Haha, liberals, right, guys?
Yeah. Again, I wanna make sure we don't get too political and assert our views or anything into this, because the film is surprisingly objective about the people. So I kind of want to keep the discussion in that vein, if you don't mind, Ian. It's just a matter of, it's really hard to do that.
No, I completely understand. It's just such a hard thing to separate out, because, I'm not going to make any bones about it. I'm not a Republican at all. I very much lean Democrat, but goddamn, guys, grow fucking spine.
But you are part Mexican, so that's you're racially obligated to do that.
I guess.
Right.
Even though, like, whatever. Anyway, not important. I'm not going to talk modern politics because then we'll just be off and I'll just be ranting about the fucking election and all this shit.
Also, how the
Anyway.
U.S. uses the term liberal Democrat completely wrongly. But, you know.
Yep.
that's
Yeah.
the thing.
Americans using words wrong? Oh, no.
I'm
What
just
do you
saying,
say?
for future reference, if you're a person that supports free market economics and liberty government and such, you're a liberal Democrat. And if you're the opposite that prefers social exchanges and redistribution, hence Democrat, then you're a social Democrat.
Yep.
Those are two very clear distinctions that America reverses. It's not
Well, it's all
that hard
because
to
of
keep them
Reagan.
straight. All I'm saying.
It's all because of Reagan. Though.
Exactly.
They turned liberal into a bad word. Once again, master of marketing.
Yeah. He was a liberal, is all I'm saying.
Anyway, back to Iron Lady here.
Yes.
Was anyone disappointed that we only get a passing reference to where the Iron Lady name came from, as opposed to, like, a big scene for it?
Well, maybe not a big scene, but I was upset that the Iron Lady term was just used so sparingly. Like, the movie's got gravitas with that name. You cast Meryl Streep in that role. You've got Margaret Thatcher that's got such a presence, and we don't see her as the Iron Lady or have people refer to her as that as often as I think it should. Because I feel like that terminology really asserted her ego and played into her hallucinations down the line. And it would have played
later on, she's like standing in front. She's standing in front of the mirror, going, da, 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 da. I am Iron Lady. Bah, bah, bah. Just shoots fucking lasers at herself. That was a terrible joke. I am sorry. I feel so ashamed right now. Not because I
just mean, like, the Iron Lady is a nickname, yes, but it's also something that's historically important, especially in British politics. So I feel like that phrase should have had more gravitas to it, even if it was only one scene.
I guess they didn't.
It's too bad.
They didn't want to overuse it.
That it was a Soviet journalist that gave her that nickname, because he could have made so much money off of that term. You're gonna say, Milan?
Basically, I think they didn't want to, Iron Lady is what everybody knows her as, so I guess they were trying to be a little bit classy. Like, the Americans would expect us to use the Iron Lady in every sentence, going like, I am the Iron Lady, dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. I can't stop making fucking robot jokes. It's ridiculous.
It's okay.
My argument against that would simply be the movie is called Iron Lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still.
I agree with you, Milan, but at the same time, I don't know, just something about it. Because it would have worked so well to contrast the literal Iron Lady part. Because here's the thing. Margaret Thatcher was politically a stone wall when it came down to everything. You could not argue with this woman. She had it her way, end of story every time.
You could argue with her, it's just it would never work.
It would be like arguing with a wall.
Yeah, Stonewall Jackson, kind of.
Yeah, so the idea of what this movie does is it makes her obviously it humanizes her very much when she's an old woman, but also throughout the movie humanizes her when she isn't crazy. And with a name like Iron Lady, trying to portray Margaret Thatcher as she was politically, I don't know, I like the scene where she writes all the apology notes to the dead soldiers, but even if she did that, that's not something I could see her doing in that time period, you know?
Yeah, that's fair.
Whiners! Oh, fuck off. You're not getting any pension for this.
See, I've been, this actually made me want to go back and re-listen to the final cut. Steven hijacked the review at this point. This made me want to go back and listen to the final cut, which is, Pink Floyd's last album until recently, actually. And it's Roger Waters going on his whole thing about, how his father died in World War II, and, you don't realize it, past Ian, as you listen to Pink Floyd all throughout middle school and high school, but Roger Waters has a very big problem with authority figures.
No.
Really?
Really? No.
Yeah, it took me a while to catch on to it. But like, there's a opening song, and then there's another reference to her. But in the opening song, let's see here. I'm gonna have to say it in beat, otherwise I'm gonna forget the lyrics. Tell me true, tell me why, was Jesus crucified? Was it for this that Daddy died? Was it you? Was it me? Did I watch too much TV? Is that a hint of accusation in your eyes? If it wasn't for the Nips being so good at building ships, the yards would still be open all the time. What have we done? Maggie, what have we done? What have we done to England? Should we shout? Should we scream? What happened to the post-war dream? Oh, Maggie, Maggie, what did we do? And that's just about how England after the war was this like promise of, oh, things are going to get better again. We're going to be like the great power that we were before World War II happened. And then it just wasn't happening. And then Margaret Thatcher came around, and she seemed to, for a while, be fulfilling this promise. And then everything went to hell, because then there's a song later on where he's talking about all the terrible things that leaders of the world have done. And the line is, and Maggie, over lunch one day, took a cruiser and all the boys and never brought it back. And you can just tell he was not a fan of her because she sent kids to die. And he's like, well, some of them were fathers, and now kids are going to grow up the way I did without a father. And I think there's a lot to that. I think we need to see more of the people, the average person reacting to Margaret Thatcher's policy, and not just in the big sweeping protest ways. Like, I wanted her to be at a press conference and someone to scream at her, you know, give me my job back or something like that.
Or your war ate my boy.
Yeah, just something like that, because like she writes those letters, and that is a very touching moment, and I can buy it as the old woman, but Margaret Thatcher politically, I needed to see someone be shocked by that, and no one really reacts as she's writing them.
Yeah, that's a good point. And they use that other song in this film where she's like in the height of her career, that song, I'm in Love with Margaret Thatcher, but that's a song that's a little bit, that's teasing her. It isn't necessarily painting her in the best light. Like, clearly the person that wrote that song isn't a fan of her either, but she sees it as a celebration of herself. And that's telling of her character and of her personality, but it would still have been really good to get at least a scene of her acknowledging the fact that people don't like her.
Yeah. And I mean, we get that. I mean, we get plenty of dwelling on the bombing, but she, of course, takes it the wrong way as a validation, you know?
Yeah. See, she's the Iron Lady, but there needed to be a moment somewhere where her iron shell kind of cracked, and more than just in a mental capacity, in a personal philosophy way of like she doesn't think she's doing the right thing anymore somewhere along the line.
Well, that's the thing about Margaret Thatcher. The thing is, did she ever doubt herself? Because from what I've heard, Margaret Thatcher was a rock to the very end. Well, not really. She was more of a sponge to the very end, but like, mental illness.
No, like, here's the thing. If they were going to show a moment of doubt, and they were focusing so much on the hotel bombing and implying that she had post-traumatic stress disorder from it, then they should have focused on why the hotel bombing took place.
Yeah, fair point.
Because, alright, so for those that don't know, because they don't even address it in the movie, which is weird. There were several IRA prisoners that formed a hunger strike. They didn't want to be released or anything like that. They wanted to be reclassified, because they were at one point, then they were classified as just terrorists, but then they wanted to be reclassified as political prisoners, because that's, you know, what they were. They hadn't done anything wrong yet. They were being held as terrorists, but they hadn't done anything, so they wanted to be classified as political prisoners. And they put on a hunger strike to get this classification. And the leader of the hunger strike died after 66 days without food. And then 10 more people died, and then the hunger strike ended. And the IRA vowed to get vengeance for those 10 deaths, and that's why the bombing took place. And, you know, I'm not a fan of terrorist actions, but once again, I'm Irish. I really understand that thinking. There's a saying that goes along with British colonialism and the fall of it, which is the British had been colonizing the world for years, and the one that gave them the most trouble was the one that was closest to their shores. And it's talking about Ireland.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because we hear of the IRA peripherally, but we don't get a sense of who they are or what they're doing, aside from that one bombing scene.
Yeah.
You would feel like that specific group would get some more attention in a film like this, especially considering we don't do a lot of British political films like this.
Mm-hmm.
Because the IRA is a really big deal over there, and the status of Ireland's always been an issue over there. And if you were going to talk about it anywhere, then this would be the place.
Yeah. Funny enough, like, since Ireland can get independence now, nobody seems to give a fuck anymore. We used to make bombs for our independence. Now nobody gives a shit.
That was Scotland you're thinking of. Okay.
Fuck, they're all like... It doesn't fucking matter. They're all like a stone's throw away from each other.
Wow.
See? Yep. There we go.
By the way, I have to take a moment to tangent out here and respond to a tweet Milan sent the other day.
Okay.
So Spain is not the Mexico of Europe. Speaking as someone that's half Mexican and half Irish, I would say, you know, Turkey is probably the Mexico of Europe.
I know that. I'm just like, oh, they speak Spanish, Mexico, but with class. This thing just popped into my head, and I knew it didn't make sense, but I just wanted to tweet it.
Jackass.
I know. Oh, fuck off. Twitter is not for thinking. How dare you?
That is true. I'll give you that. Okay, anyway, back on topic. You know what? No, not back on topic. Why is there no Francisco Franco movie? The
Isn't
fuck?
there?
No. At least not in English, not a mainstream, you know, proper one.
Huh.
Like, well, if you're gonna make one, it should be in Spanish. Fuck you, I want to fucking watch it.
I could have sworn that there was one.
Not that I know of.
Guillermo del Toro should make it.
Yes, he should. No, we need a Franco movie, because Franco is probably the most successful fascist dictator ever.
Neat.
Yeah, there's a film there, so...
Yeah, I mean, like, one of my favorite things, you know, I think of Franco the same way I think of Stalin and Hitler, so keep this in mind as I say one of my favorite things about Franco. One of my favorite things about Franco is...
He was competent?
Like, yeah, kinda. I mean, he was smart enough not to try to fight wars on his own. Like, he allied with Hitler early on in his revolution and got them, and Hitler used it as an opportunity to test the Blitzkrieg method. And that's how Franco won the revolution. Then he didn't really help Hitler all throughout World War II, so the Allies couldn't do anything about Spain, and that's why Pablo Picasso never came back to Spain in his lifetime. But one of the genius things about Franco that neither Stalin or Hitler got is, like, they both banned certain types of art. Mussolini too. They all banned certain types of art and expression and all this stuff. Franco was like, fuck it, put it up in the museums. I don't give a shit. No one's gonna get it.
Well, see, now that you introduce this element, I really want a movie on Otto von Bismarck.
Who's Otto man? What?
World War I leader of Germany?
Yes, leader of Germany that united all of the smaller countries by inciting a war with Napoleon and completely destroying realpolitik in Europe.
Okay, I was thinking World War I guy. My bad.
Oh, no. But yeah, that guy deserves a movie just as much. Why don't we have movies about Bismarck? That guy is awesome.
Well, because people don't know history.
That's the guy you can play as in Civ when you play as the Germans, isn't it? And a Montezuma movie.
Yeah,
Dude, the thing is... the reason these awesome historical movies aren't getting made is because... people don't know who they are. So essentially, it's like if the historical figure isn't covered in 5th grade history class, then Americans don't know who they are.
Yeah,
it's sad but true.
It's incredibly sad but true. And normally I don't let Milan get away with saying things that he doesn't know whether or not they're true, but actually that is 100% factually accurate.
Well, you let your politicians do that all the time. Why, you know?
Well, I mean, we're Americans. We pretend that, you know, history didn't happen, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
Is it now?
I mean, there are so many people in America that don't know the 3 branches of government, and they think that the Bill song from that Schoolhouse Rock TV show is actually how the government works.
And I mean, that's the ideal version, but sure. No, like, I forget the name of the guy. Alright, so this is going to sound crazy. You remember the reporter from Batman 89?
Vicky Vale?
No, not her, the guy.
Her boyfriend guy?
Vicky Vale was a photographer.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about. Fuck, what was his name? It was Knox, right?
Yeah, but the actor playing him...
no idea. Robert something.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's got a degree in history or something like that, because at one point he did 2 little mini HBO semi-documentaries, stand-up comedy, semi-TED Talks, I guess you could call them. They're weird. Anyway, he did 2 sessions of this called Assumed Position, and he just rattled on about little forgotten historical things that, like, or things that are in the public sphere about history but are completely wrong, like Christopher Columbus didn't figure out the world was round. It was 1492, the year they invented the fucking globe, for Christ's sakes. So, like, it's stuff like that, and he was doing an interview after the fact with the history professor, and he asked the guy, if there was any one thing you could ask a potential president of the United States, what would it be? And the guy says, I would ask him how much history he actually knows about this country.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, because, like, I think that would be, you know, if I ever get to the point where I'm in a town hall debate for, like, president, like John McCain kept challenging Obama to all those years ago, that's the question I would ask, like, or that's similar to the question I would ask. What, in your mind, is the most shameful moment in American history?
Because there's a lot of those.
Yeah, there are, and, like, that'd be a very hard question for a president to answer, but it's something that, you know, I think we need to admit, because, like, and I'm actually getting back to the topic at hand now through Reagan again. The problem with Reagan is he didn't want to admit that this country had flaws. Like, I've always said that Reagan was probably a really good guy, but I honestly think that he went to bed every night believing his own bullshit. Whereas,
yeah, fair enough.
I want someone to lead a country. If you're going to lead a country, I think you should know what's wrong with your country, not just, you know, the social problems or the economic problems that haunt it now, but what's wrong with your country on the whole, what your country has done to other people that is objectively wrong.
Yeah, a president who's aware that the rest of the world exists. That's good.
Yeah.
Essentially.
And I don't like Kennedy so much. Yeah. Kennedy was quite a bit like that. Nixon had his issues. Nixon was terrible with domestic policy, but he was great with foreign policy because he knew the history of the world.
Yeah, and I mean, Kennedy apologized to the public is one of those things that people forget. Like, I love that speech that Kennedy gives after the Bay of Pigs.
Yeah.
He apologizes to the public for putting them through that.
Yeah, Kennedy's my favorite president for a reason.
Yeah. Mine too.
Is it because he had sex with Marilyn Monroe?
Well, there's that too. You can't argue that, man. Come on.
Happy birthday, Mr. President. Bitch, my family is right here.
I love Dave Chappelle. Like, bitch, get the fuck up.
So back to the Iron Lady then.
Yeah, I mean, like, through Reagan though, and like, I think it's weird because you don't get too much of a sense in this one of how much Margaret Thatcher knows about her own country and how much, like, just kind of took from her father, because she makes all these points about being, you know, a common person. Like, she keeps an eye on the price of milk, and that's her her ground to the average person. I'm like, yeah, I can see that argument, but at the same time, you're ending jobs. And, you know, as Steve was saying earlier, like, sure, the economy is getting better overall, but less people are enjoying the fruits of that, you know?
Yeah, because she says she pays attention to the price of milk and stuff, but she forgets that her level of payment compared to others, and what her conditions are compared to others. And I mean, I don't doubt that she kept her ground of the year when she was starting out, but she certainly lost that at a point. Like, she's got that speech where she says she wants to put the great back in Great Britain. And I think that's the point where she kind of lost it and does the Reagan thing of believing her own bullshit.
Yeah, and there's the thing that everyone agrees pretty much brought Thatcher down was the poll tax, which it's one of the few things that they actually kind of mention in detail at all, which is weird because it's a single line. For those that don't know, the poll tax would have made everyone in the country pay the exact same tax rate, which, yeah, it sounds like fair when you say it just like that, but when you think about it, you know,
well, yeah, I think even if you say it, it doesn't sound fair.
Well, no, I mean, like, it sounds fair in the fact that it is literally fair. Like, it's objectively fair. Everyone's paid the same thing, so no one's getting a better shake than anyone else. So it is fair. But when you think about it, it's not okay because someone that's making, you know, minimum wage or less, like if you have say you're a waitress and you're working in a bar and no one fucking tips because they're assholes.
Or you're... Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you have less than minimum wage as an income, and you're expected to pay the same exact tax rate.
Is this going to turn into the Reservoir Dogs opening scene?
Yep.
Yeah, this is exactly like the Reservoir Dogs opening scene. And for that matter, Madonna's song "Like a Virgin" is really just about a girl that's having a really big dick for the first time in a long time. Anyway.
Pretty much, yeah. Anyway,
no. The idea is that, so you're a waitress who's making technically less than minimum wage, and you're getting the exact same tax, you're in the exact same tax bracket as someone who's, you know, making billions of dollars a year. Well, by that point, there was no billionaires, millions of dollars a year. That's crazy. Ugh, that is so crazy. There's like, how could you ever believe that anyone would go for that? And, like, what's worse about that, and I know, Steve, you keep saying that you don't want to get into the actual, like, politics of it, but
I don't want to get into the personal politics of it from our standpoint, but we can get into the nitty-gritty of the historical stuff, sure.
Yeah, what's so terrible about that is, you know where she started it in? Fucking Scotland.
Oh, that is perfect.
And Scotland was going through its own issues at that time, so...
Right? Oh. You see where this referendum shit came from. It wasn't just Mel Gibson in the face paint, I promise.
No, yeah, you're right. And that's why the downfall of her is so fascinating, because it's literally everyone in the party lost faith in her, and they opposed her and kicked her out. No matter how powerful or how inarguable she seemed, she was dead wrong, and there was a point where everyone in the party had to get rid of her. And it wasn't just because they didn't agree, but because she was killing Britain more than she was helping it.
One of the scenes that I really liked is all the ministers talking to her is like, well, I would vote for you, but blah, blah, blah. Well, the thing is, that all actually happened in about a day. In real life, that happened in about a day. And so every fucking minister that was in London at the time, which is a big majority back then, is sitting there in the hallway basically just waiting to go talk to Thatcher. And then that's when they all decided, yeah, we only voted her to the point where we did. Like, alright, so there was the vote, and she didn't win enough votes to get an outright win. So she was going to have to campaign. So they're all sitting there talking out in the hallway, and like, oh, we just voted for her because we felt like we have to, but if no one's gonna vote for her, yeah, let's get her the fuck out. she didn't realize how much she alienated everyone. She was under, I honestly believe that she was under the impression that everyone in Parliament that was in her party loved her.
Yeah. And I also want to like talk about this scene because maybe this is a good way to segue into it. But the British has this system where like every week, people in Parliament can ask the Prime Minister a question, and they turn into like these really huge heated debates, and they're on the internet all the time, and they're so much fun to watch. Parliament is so much cooler than Congress, just saying. And they portray that early on. They portray that early on as being this really energetic thing. And when everyone is alienated away from her, and you get to see the individuality of the ministers, it makes all the politicians a little bit more humanized. You know, like they're not the faceless government senators that we have in American movies all the time. Like, these are people, and Margaret Thatcher worked her way up the ranks like it was a corporation, and the people just turned on her, and they were people in that sense.
Yeah, and the thing is, you got to remember where she came from in this, is that she did the exact same thing to the Prime Minister at the time that her party does to her in the end.
Yeah.
You know? She, like, everyone decided that the Prime Minister was weak, so she ran, and then everyone looked at her and realized how weak she really was within her own party. Like, she'd gone to this point where she was focusing more on the world stage as opposed to back home, and everyone realized how weak that made her politically, so they cut her out right away.
Yeah. And by the way, they portray the British parliamentary system really well.
See, I have no idea how Parliament works. Like any parliamentary system for that matter, my entire understanding of Parliament comes from, it's like their version of Congress.
Well,
that's all I've got.
Well, I mean, I know a fair bit about Parliament, and I watch those weekly videos where they're questioning the prime ministers, and that's just so much fun to see. It's hilarious how much they yell. Parliament is so cool. But yeah, they portray that system really well. They make sure they make reference to the House of Lords and the House of Commons. They talk about like the proportional representation and the electoral system and how all that works. Why Britain is unitary and not federal and stuff like that. And when you get that scene really early on, and she's just a Minister of Education or Secretary of Education, whatever you'd call her, and you see her question the minister, and that's exactly how they do it. Literally, if you go to England right now and you walk in on Parliament, it's literally 2 aisles of people just yelling at each other one at a time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Parliament is so much fun to watch.
Yeah. What made it funny in this was when they're all like, the right honorable gentleman, and then they just proceed to like cuss him out and like shit on him.
And that's not exaggerated. Like, literally, this is what they do. It hasn't evolved in like 100 years. This is exactly what they do.
It's awesome, then. I wish American politics were more like that.
Come forth, Miss Sarah Palin.
Here's the thing, though. American politics kind of used to be like that, but then media just got... You know what the problem with American politics is C-SPAN.
I like C-SPAN.
What's that? Yeah, but C-SPAN in there put everyone on guard, so now they don't want to, like, get into actual arguments anymore. Because, like, you watch a movie like Lincoln, which is another one of these biopics that's not quite right, but fuck it, I don't care.
Great movie, though.
At some point.
Yeah. You watch a movie like Lincoln, and the portrayal of Congress, of the House of Representatives at that time, perfect.
Yeah.
That is exactly what it used to be like.
Yeah.
And if you could imagine, like, C-SPAN, if it were able to film that, like, I wish C-SPAN had hidden cameras. That's what I want. And no one would know when they're on. So they'd feel free to just fucking browbeat the shit out of each other, and then it could get posted online, and it would be amazing.
Well, see, what's interesting about that is that everyone in Parliament knows they're being filmed, and they still do this.
I guess the British just don't give 2 fucks.
Like, literally, you can go on YouTube right now. You can go on the BBC YouTube page, and you'll see every weekly video they upload from Parliament, and everyone's got, like, their weird camera face on, and they're just yelling the shit out of each other, and the judge is in the center, and he keeps saying, order, order, and no one's listening, and they're just yelling. And everyone in the back would cheer and stuff.
I don't know if this is a good way of running politics or an honest way of running politics.
It's a great way. I love the British system. It's just hilarious.
Hilarious, but like, at what point do you... Well, is it effective, really?
It's effective. It works because they're a small
UN
country.
run, for that matter?
Huh?
How is the UN run exactly, for that matter?
I don't know, actually. There's no
I
cameras
don't
for
even know if the UN is run. I'm pretty sure it's just a bunch of people from all these different countries sitting around in a room just like, we can't fucking talk to each other, so it's just like, we hire translators, they don't know what the fuck we're saying. It's just a pain.
Do you think every war in history since the UN has just been like someone mistranslated?
Yes, I think that is an accurate way to depict the course of events since World War II.
Blah, 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 blah. Oh my god, he just said war.
It's just Tower of Babel. Like, that's what no one realized. Building the UN was just building the Tower of Babel.
Yeah. See, that's why we must, that's why humans shouldn't interact with each other.
Not in a global scale, no. I mean, like, that's the thing, is everyone's like, oh, we could just come together across the world. No, we can't. That's never gonna happen. Like, not to be too negative, but to be way too negative. People are gonna kill each other forever. I'm sorry, if there's one thing people are good at, it's killing each other.
Unless there's some other outside force that we get to kill, then, like, if there's aliens...
Short of an alien invasion, I do not see, like, the world banding together. Oh. And even then, I've seen Iron Sky. Come on now. I think that's a very accurate portrayal of what the world banding together to fight off a common threat would look like.
Like what?
Like the last scene in Iron Sky where they all start nuking each other and then
yeah.
Marx shows up in the background.
Marx. I'm sorry. So, I haven't seen that movie.
Iron Sky?
No.
There's a sequel coming out, and there's Hitler riding a dinosaur.
What?
Yeah,
what?
Yeah. There's a sequel, and Hitler's riding a dinosaur. It's fantastic.
Oh
I'm excited for this movie.
I am too. Holy shit.
I must admit, I'm a tiny bit disappointed because I was hoping with, Mars in the background that we'd get, Soviets in space, but this is okay. Hitler riding a dinosaur makes up for it.
It's called The Coming Race. The trailer is out for it, and literally, it's Hitler riding a dinosaur. There's no other way to talk about it.
This is awesome. I'm happy. Now, is he riding the dinosaur through space?
I believe so, but it's hard to tell because it's night.
Okay.
Dear God. Okay. The greatest thing in the world has now being made. Good.
Yep, yeah. It's over. Geeky Gentleman's done. Nothing is ever needed to be made again. No, every single movie in Hollywood has stopped production.
This is the definitive.
All the artists are burning their supplies and going to get real jobs.
So true.
Human creativity has reached its high point. Thank you, everyone. It took us 6,000 years, but now we have Hitler riding the dinosaur, and life is good.
Yes, life is good. No, you can't. Well, that's the point.
So the Iron Lady.
I don't know. I think we're about out of things to say for it. Anyone want to give final thoughts before we go to scores?
I don't think there's much else to say. Really, yeah, you're right.
Like, it's
good.
It's a really well done movie. I still don't like Margaret Thatcher. I don't think it was attempting to make me like Margaret Thatcher. I think it was attempting to humanize her, and I personally never dehumanized her. She was a person. She was just really bad at that.
Yeah, I mean, it did a really good job of portraying that. It made sure you understood what her position was, but that doesn't justify anything that she did.
Yeah, it doesn't validate her. It doesn't validate what she did. It's like, this is what she did. She was kind of crazy, but she was still human, essentially.
It weirds me out that so many people really hate this movie, and they label it as like it's a left-wing fantasy kind of thing, and I don't get that.
Well, I guess...
if you agree with everything Margaret Thatcher did, you have to realize the effects it had. Like, you cannot look at the riot footage in this movie and tell me, oh, well, it's just an interpretation.
Liberal propaganda.
When you see police riding horses into the middle of a public crowd of protesters and just hitting them. Like, dude, that's why people want to go to war in Egypt and Syria and shit.
Dude,
and that's why people want American troops, but in like all these Arab Spring countries, is because shit like that is happening.
Dude, liberal propaganda, that never happened. It's all CGI.
It's all CGI.
It's all CGI, How dare you?
Yeah.
All right.
It's Obama that's, making you think that Margaret Thatcher was a bad person. She wasn't.
Margaret Thatcher was just this sweet old lady that lived in 10 Downing Street, and she made cookies every day and gave them out to the children of the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's those fucking
She volunteered at homeless shelters and knitted sweaters for all the hobos.
Exactly.
The Onion did this great video, like the day before the 2012 election. And it was Paul Ryan spends the last day of the election going up to homeless people and reminding them that they did this to themselves.
Why have I never seen this?
It is pretty much Paul Ryan's personal philosophy, though.
Yeah. I still remember the news coverage of him washing clean dishes.
Oh my god. Fucking that guy is just... Like, Australian politics are, like, they're not sane exactly, but they're boring and competent. Kind of. But American and British politics is just like, here's a fucking gorilla in a tutu yelling at another man that's dressed in a fucking gimp suit. That's politics.
Yeah, I think the way I describe it is that British politics is cage fighting, and U.S. politics is passive-aggressive cage fighting.
Not even cage fighting, just...
We've got metaphoric chairs and iron and shit that we throw at each other.
I suppose so.
All right, let's go ahead and do scores. Milan, why don't you go first?
It's a good movie. It's certainly intellectually engaging. I made a lot of stupid cracks, but that's just because its brain not work properly when not asleep. But yeah, it's a good film. 5 out of 5. Yep. Just ghostly husband hallucinations.
Damn. All right, I'm not going to use mine then. All right, go ahead, Steve. I got to think of a new one.
Okay, let's see. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5 completely unreasonable poll taxes.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and give it 5 out of 5. Shit. I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 Roger Waters albums.
That's fair enough.
I don't know if I'm breaking the rule of the review, but fuck it, it's my show.
Yeah, it is your show.
It's kind of related.
Who's gonna bring me up on charges for it? I control the Geeky Gentleman. I'm the one in charge of Geeky Gentleman. I get my way. I stand my ground and do whatever the fuck I want on Geeky Gentleman. Is that understood?
40 years from now, you're gonna have dementia and talk to like an invisible Haley, and it's gonna be hilarious.
No, he's gonna talk to an invisible Milan. And he's gonna just fucking cry like, God, leave me alone. Like, I will never leave you alone. Remember that awful penis joke I made 5 years ago? Ha 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 ha! Let me repeat it to you 1,000 times. How horrible would it be to have me as your horrible hallucination? Jesus God.
Almost as bad as having Jar Jar Force Ghost follow you around.
Oh, yeah, definitely. No, I'll be dressed in that...
Honest, like Jar Jar Binks' uncle.
No. Oh, fuck off, dude. That is way too harsh.
That's below the belt. Yeah, I'm sorry. I take that back.
Yeah,
I apologize.
You know,
I'll, make a public statement of apology.
Like, you can call me anything you want, but don't. You just.
We're no longer friends.
No.
I get it. I understand.
Yeah,
I deserve that.
You do. Yeah.
So anyway.
Okay. Milan, what are we talking about next week?
We're still doing historical stuff, right?
Correct.
If you want, I don't know. I think it'll be fun if we do. But if you can't think of anything, that's okay.
Essentially, what I want to talk about is how propaganda works through comic books. How certain agendas can be pushed through entertainment. For example, I'm really fascinated. Like back in the 1960s, when Kennedy was in power, he essentially asked Stan Lee to write a couple of stories, like, hey, or he asked DC to do, like, let's just be fucking, inspire the children to become scientists and engineers. And that's...
No, I gotcha. That'll work.
Yeah,
that's a good topic.
Oh, no, here you go. How can propaganda be used in positive ways in media?
Don't do Civil War.
Okay. But yeah, I think there's a lot there.
Yes. Yeah.
Just talking about propaganda in media. That's cool. All right, everyone, thank you for listening. That'll be fun on I guess, like, History Month here on Geeky Gentlemen, where we all try to show off about how much we know about the world.
And it's all in protest of Thanksgiving not actually meaning anything.
No, it's in protest of Thanksgiving actually being a holiday about genocide.
That too.
Yeah, I mean, like...
All right, before I sign off, I had a history teacher over the summer semester, and she was talking about trying to explain Thanksgiving to one of her Czech relatives. And she's like, no, it's a holiday about genocide. She's like, but pumpkin pie and turkey and togetherness. You're celebrating a genocide. It's not okay.
Yeah, like...
We're going to have to do Christmas month, too. This is great.
Yeah.
We'll just do, like, Jesus Christ Superstar and shit. That'd be awesome.
We'll talk about all of the extremely subtle Man of Steel Jesus allegories.
Oh, yes. Like seriously, like, if you didn't bring it up, I seriously could, like, I was thinking to myself, like, there's something really familiar about the story structure and the symbolism here, but I'm like, I can't place it. It's so subtle. And then you said, oh, he's Space Jesus. I'm like, oh, Space Jesus.
Wait, so if Superman's Space Jesus, who is Space Judas?
Lex Luthor?
Brainiac?
No, Lex Luthor is Space Devil.
No,
Brainiac is Brainiac the one that betrayed Jor-El and destroyed Krypton and all that?
That's only in the cartoon.
Well, they've recorded part of that into the comics with the Jeff Johns stuff, haven't they?
Did they?
I thought they did. I don't know. I don't have the largest range of knowledge in the current Superman book, so...
I don't know, who is Space Judas? There's your Superman character right there. Like, Jimmy Olsen just fucking sells Superman down the river.
Like,
I don't know. I've
Superman's pal, no
like,
more.
Science fiction Moses, and then the Jesus thing just became a thing.
Well, you gotta remember, he was created by Jewish kids, and then Christians got a hold of him, just like the Bible was created by Jewish people, and then Christians got a hold of him.
You know what's fucking weird?
No, actually, no, I don't want to know what's fucking weird. I want to sign off and end the video, Milan. That's what I want.
And then we will discuss this weird stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, everyone, thank you for listening. Until next time, I'm the philosopher.
I'm the politician.
And I'm the incomprehensible madman.
And oddly enough, Steve's title works really well in this episode.
It does, doesn't it? It works good for this whole month.
Yeah.
Until next time, we are your Geeky Gentlemen, and we will be discussing